This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Fick Ford, the WCRA, and Pendleton Whiskey. Born in the iconic American western town of Pendleton, Oregon, and taking its name from one of the most revered rodeos in the world, my absolute favorite rodeo, known for the grass, the Pendleton Roundup. Pendleton Whiskey is a modern celebration of a century-old tradition. Pendleton Whiskey is barrel-aged in American oak and cut with glacier-fed spring water from Oregon's Mount Hood. For an uncommonly smooth, rich taste, and complex flavor, the Pendleton Whiskey brand honors a heritage that inspires us to live boldly, never lose sight of the values we believe in, and taste the moment, wherever we may be. The legacy of the American cowboy is forged in every single bottle. A taste of true Western tradition is always worth raising a glass to. Discover more at pendletonwhiskey.com. Oh, and Pendleton Whiskey is the official whiskey of Pro Rodeo and of the PBR. Pendleton Blended Canadian Whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume, Pendleton Distilleries, Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Please drink responsibly. Fick Ford, the #1 Super Duty dealer in the entire country, is still taking care of their customers. It's hard to get trucks right now, but there's some perks when you're the #1 Super Duty dealer in the country. You still got trucks. Go to BillFickFordHuntsville.com to get the no bull discounts that no one else is giving during this crazy time that we're living in. Fick Ford is still the place to go. In fact, if you ask me, it's the only place to get a new Super Duty dealer today. Fick Ford. Who wants to be Rodeo's next millionaire? It's time. That time again through the WCRA. You can win $1 million by nominating your rides or runs and earning points through the WCRA. Through the Triple Crown of Rodeo, the WCRA will award $1 million in cash prizes to any one athlete or collection of athletes who wins first place in any 3 consecutive WCRA major rodeos. $1 million is completely up for grabs. The Days of 47 Cowboy Games and Rodeo will be the second stop of the 2021 Triple Crown of Rodeo series. The event will pay out over $560,000 and will be held July 20th through the 24th in Salt Lake City. Get this, there will be 0 entry fees, people. You heard me correctly. No entry fees. The only way to qualify for the Triple Crown of Rodeo event is by nominating your rides and runs with the WCRA. Use promo code GAUGE10 for 10% off your next nomination. Again, that promo code is GAUGE10 for 10% off your next nomination. To learn more, just visit WCRArodeo.com and learn how you can earn a spot at the Days of 47 Rodeo and possibly be Rodeo's next millionaire. What?
This is The Gauge with host Chance Conradu.
Are you freaking serious? It's Conrado. This is The Gauge, and I am Chance Conrado. On this episode of the podcast, we've got 3-time Bullfighters Only world champion Weston Rutkowski. Yeah. Anyway, Weston, my dude Weston's in the house. Rutkowski. Look, I'm not good with my words, obviously, but my dude is in here, and it was a lot of fun to get to chat with him. And yeah, I think you'll get highly educated on the BFO and bullfighting as a mainstream sport. I know I'm a fan. You should be too. Check it out. Bring his microphone back and forth. So if you lean back, just
I do a lot of moving.
Yeah, these chairs aren't comfortable, and so yeah,
they look cool.
They got the look, but you know they don't have the lower back support if you got problems.
I do have that.
Yeah.
I think anybody at rodeos has got problems.
Yeah, I definitely got back problems from either being in the truck too much, or getting bucked off, or flipped over on, just all the shit that goes with
I know that's
horses.
Right.
We good, Ty? Yeah. Oh, you been rolling? It was a slow start for you. Wait. You probably woke up like 45 minutes ago and then drove in, right?
No, I've been rolling for the past 3 minutes.
3?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Usually we just start and there's like 10 minutes of you have no idea.
Oh, I know all about these things. That's where the best stuff comes at the very beginning.
Oh, you've been listening to them. Yeah. We dropped that in. And some people are like,
wait,
how could you do that? Dude, you're going to delete that, right?
How can you lie to me?
No, we're not. Yeah.
Nothing to hide here.
It's a house of betrayal. Well, I'm always really interested to speak to guys who chose a career in bullfighting. One, because like it being more of a mainstream rodeo thing's kind of new, but it's always a kind of a different kind of dude who wants to commit to that?
I mean, yes and no.
Yeah.
Myself, I've just always kind of been geared towards competition and like to know whether I won or lost that day. And,
Right.
you know, in the bullfighting industry, you get that immediate confirmation, you know, either the bull wrecked you out or vice versa, you know, you won. So to me, yes, there are guys that have screw looses, but there's also a bunch of athletes that just like the pure competition of things.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't think I'd call it a screw loose. Maybe a couple, but I was thinking more along the terms of like if you look at any extreme sport athlete, there's always something that's different about them, you know, and maybe it is that elevated level of competition or maybe a lack of fear. You go grab off the street and say, hey, go fight that bull. 99% of guys are going to be like, what? You know, it's just like you're not going to tell a guy to go jump what Travis Pastrana just jumped. Like, he's not going to do it. So it's just a different level of person, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just I guess I kind of grew up around it, so I've always been fascinated with bulls. Not so much growing up around bullfighting in a sense, but grew up around rodeo, so I've just always been intrigued with how big the bulls are, how powerful they are, and I just always had an infatuation with them, and somehow or another found my way fighting them.
So what was your thing in rodeo? Like, so if you grew up rodeoing as a kid, were you roping? Were you riding rough stock? What were you doing?
Just like a little kid. I grew up in West Texas, Haskell, just an hour north of Abilene, and, you know, played a rodeo and doing all the little things kids do and stuff. And about, I'd say probably when I was roughly 7, 8 years old is when the PBR really blew up on TV. And, you know, of course, watching TV, it was the only thing rodeo that was on TV.
Right.
And I really wanted to be a bull rider. Gosh dang. That's all I wanted to do was watch it. You know, I remember watching Blueberry Wine Buck and all those things as a kid. And, oh, shoot, you know, the local rodeos come around and get in the back pens and just be around them. And about that time, about junior high started, I really wanted to ride bulls. And I convinced Mom to let me get on some junior bulls. And, shoot, got dumped the very first one. And I was hooked. I loved that feeling of that adrenaline rush. And I guess I just found it at a young age. And lo and behold, as I grew up, I kept wanting to do it, but sports kind of got in the way of it. I was a pretty good athlete in high school and all that, and Mom didn't want me to ruin any chances I had at a scholarship, and so she kind of put the kibosh on it, and you know, the college football thing didn't really work out like I wanted it to, and so I just went back to trying to get on bulls again.
So did you have offers to play college football, or?
I didn't necessarily have any like actual offers. I got a letter of an invite to come to a tryout down at Blinn College. It's a junior college over in Brenham.
Yeah.
They're extremely good at the junior college level, and went down there and tried out for the team and made it. But, you know, went and met the rest of the team and just kind of got that feeling of, you know, just a little bitty kid at a bigger school. And it was
right.
like, man, I really don't think I'm going to get to play much. And,
right.
and I just decided not to. Part of me is kind of upset about it, but the other half of me, you know, I found something I really love to do.
Right. No, I mean, that was a similar thing for me in football. Yeah, I mean, I had opportunities and then kind of ran away from them too, because I was like, I'm going to get the 160-pound white kid. I'm going to get trashed.
Yeah,
there's no possible way I'm going to survive one punt return. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I met the receiver there, and I thought he was the middle linebacker, and I was like, oh, I think I'm in the wrong sport.
It's weird, right?
It's a whole different world.
And that's JUCO. Imagine like walking into a D1 school.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Yeah, those guys are they are the 1% of the world. You see one of those guys like, yeah, he plays football.
Yeah, and then you see like, I don't know how much you followed like college. I used to follow college football a lot, especially when I was like in high school and everything, until it got all political and everything is now. I kind of don't care anymore. But what was the guy? He went to Chadron State. Danny Woodhead, real tiny white kid, and I think he set like the all-time rushing records. And you probably know, Ty, you're a huge football fan. Anyway, he was like basically a guy like one of us who probably had no business, but just worked his tail off and set all these NCAA records at the D2 level. And of course, he had to go free agent in the NFL and all that. And then he got on the Patriots and did pretty well in the NFL. But I mean, different kind of spirit to be a 5'7", 160-pound white guy ends up playing for the Patriots. It's the craziest thing.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I had him on my fantasy team 1 year.
Danny Woodhead?
Yeah, when he was with the Chargers.
I wonder what happened to him.
He's retired now. His last year was 2017 with Baltimore.
Yeah, I think every hit that you take if you're 5'7" in the NFL is probably like
pretty close to your last. Yeah, pretty close to your last.
It's like getting hit by a bull.
Especially that running back position.
Yeah. I mean, he had to be like one of the smallest running backs in the league, and then also a white guy.
definitely the 1% of the world.
I mean, literally
Half
the
percent.
1% of the 1%.
Yeah.
He's a different kind of guy. But all right, so that didn't work out, and then you went back to riding bulls, and then what was the?
Yeah, I got on bulls there in college for about 4 or 5 years, and I mean, I just wasn't as good as I wanted to be. And I'd go get on anything and everything I could, and just really enjoying that competition, but it just never really clicked. I mean, I tried and tried and tried, but just could never put it together. And literally one day, a friend of mine asked me to fight one for him when he was wanting to get on. It was just me and him out there, and he got on, and I stepped in, grabbed the bull. He come at me, and just out of reaction, threw a fake, got out of the way, and got back to the pen or back to the fence. And he looked at me and was like, "You know what you just did?" And I was like, "No, but that was awesome." He's like, "You should try fighting bulls." I was like, "Yeah, I think you're right. Like, I'd like to try this." And,
Yeah.
that very next Sunday, we had a jackpot, and I got on the very first bull and then fought the rest, and that was it. I knew exactly what I wanted to do from then.
I mean, when was that? Like, was
That
BFO
would
a
have
thing
been
yet, or
no.
was that way before?
That was years before. That would have been April 2011, March 11, somewhere in there.
Jesus. Yeah. This was the year I graduated high school.
Yeah,
All right.
that was the very first bull I'd ever fought. I was 21 years old, and I mean, it just clicked.
Yeah.
I knew immediately that feeling. I just couldn't get enough of it, and that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah. I mean, who were the prominent bullfighters back then? Like, if you would call them mainstream guys.
I would say 2011 probably would have been Diefenbach, Corey Wall. Tuckness was really starting to get rolling then.
Dusty,
obviously he's been around forever, but
Yeah.
I would say he wasn't the Dusty that everybody knows now, but he was definitely one of the hot hands then.
Right.
That next year I started paying more attention to it in 13, and that's when Chuck Swishers, Nathan Harps, Cody Websters, and all those guys were really starting to roll too. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so when you decide, especially at that point, like, hey, I want to do this for a living, like, what's the path that a guy takes? I mean, it's more clear now maybe, but at that time, like, how do you make a career of that and start?
So that was kind of tricky, not coming from a bullfighting family or somebody that actually knew.
Yeah, so you didn't have any connections.
No, my uncles rode broncs at a very high level for my Uncle Keith rode broncs for 3 decades. My Uncle Terry went to the finals in '79, but as far as on the bull side of things, we really didn't have that connection on where to go. So I just kind of went to a few protection matches that were close, kind of just anywhere I could go to that practice pen once, 2, 3 times a week. And then ended up going to a protection match, I think May of 11, like that next month I had just started. And I met a legend of the sport, Miles Hare, and he come up to me and asked me how long I've been fighting bulls, and I told him about a month. And he looked at me and said, "You need to come to my school." I said, "Oh, okay." He's like, "You come to my school, I guarantee I'll get you your pro card." And I was like, "Well, where do I sign up?" So obviously I knew who Miles was because I started paying a lot more attention to it. And I went to his school. I don't remember the month, but it was that same year. And he and Rob Smets were putting it on, and they both told me that I needed to get my pro card right away. So they signed for me. And I mean, it was just, it's hard to explain, but once I started, it was just the fast track of go.
Right. Because, even at that time, they probably needed the depth, right? So maybe it was a really good opportunity for a real athletic guy to.
Yeah, it was a great
some moves.
opportunity, but the freestyle thing wasn't huge. It was just something you did to get your name out. It was,
right.
At that time, it was, hey, go to these bullfights, show them what you can do with these big fighting bulls, and then you can get jobs for protection because of it. So it wasn't really like this whole tour thing like they had back in the 80s and 90s of the Wrangler bullfights. It was more so just go show them, go show off so you could get a job, like your Fort Worths and Houstons and things like that.
Right. And I mean, what was the crowds like at these things? Were they just at little fairground pens? Or, I mean, what was it like? I mean, because I don't know much about it from back in those days. I wasn't looking at it at all.
Like the big bullfight, there was only twice a year, was in Ardmore, Oklahoma. And there'd be 2,500, 3,000 people there. But that was kind of the mecca of it, Ardmore being, sorry, that was where we had the world championship. You would go once a year, and whoever won that weekend was considered the world champion. So, that was not like there was this tour standings and things like it is now. It was just, once a year put up or shut up. But as far as outside of that, we had like maybe 5 or 6 events to go to, and that's, you had very few opportunities to go win and try and build your name from there to build a career through protection.
Right. Yeah, so that's kind of the path, right? You do whatever you can to get noticed, and then you kind of just freelancing for every rodeo you can get to.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was it. And that's where, we finally sat down and was like, hey, look, there's a pile of us that can do this freestyle thing. We're all really good at it. Let's bring back the tour. So for those that didn't know, the Wrangler Bullfight Tour was huge from 81 through 2000, but then Wrangler dropped the sponsorship.
Yeah.
And away went
Why
away.
Did they do that, by the way?
So there's some gray area. I don't necessarily know the exact truth, but what I've been told is the bullfighters were getting kind of sour with the bulls they were having to fight. Your old sour brindles and things that were pretty hard to get around, really treacherous, what we call man killers.
Yeah.
And then at that time, that I'm pretty sure the NFR had kind of given them the idea of becoming the Wrangler National Finals.
Yeah, so they were pulling funds to go to that.
Yeah, so I kind of think they took that money and moved it over, just kind of a better offer and not necessarily the best conversations were being had back and forth. So it was kind of probably a win-win for them and a lose-lose for us.
Right.
So they went away for 15 years, and that's when we sat down and 15 of us Aaron Ferguson, it was his idea to create this Bullfighters Only, and he started it as a one-stop shop, anything bullfighters, like whether it be cleats, makeup, all that type stuff. And then he grabbed all the guys going, like me, Tuck, Webster, Swisher, guys like Logan Blaisdell, all the guys that were going to bullfights at the time, and we all went in on it and was like, hey, let's bring back the tour. So we got in touch with Josh Hilton. He had some contacts out in Vegas, and we ended up putting on the very first event out there at Cowboy Christmas.
Right.
And that was Vegas 15. And then from there, rolling into 16 is when we started having multiple events, and that's where we decided we'd crown the first world title, or the first world champion in 16 years. So,
yeah.
So that's kind of how it started.
Who was the first one?
Me.
Oh, it was you?
Yep.
You were the very first one?
Yes,
yeah, I
sir.
didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, I won it the first 3 years in a row, 16, 17, and 18.
Yeah, so that's why you're the 3-time.
Yes, sir.
First 3.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's real cool. So, in the last 2 years, we've had Aaron Mercer. So I won first 3. He's won the second 2. There's only been 2 world champions in the last 5 years.
That's pretty crazy. That's more like boxing than rodeo. That doesn't happen very often.
No, especially in this sport. So it's cool, but we're nowhere near done either. So
right, yeah, you're just gonna keep doing it because it's pretty damn popular now.
Yeah, it's we've definitely pushed it to the mainstream. Obviously, there's still leaps and bounds to go, but we haven't regressed at all, which is a cool thing to say. A lot of organizations and sports in general, can be like roller coaster ride, but we've never really taken a step back other than 2020. But who didn't? So
right. Well, and so for people who don't know, and because there's going to be a lot of people who probably don't understand how the scoring works, how all that works. I want to get back to that man killer thing you said too, but first explain how, kind of from start to finish, you being the first world champion 3 times in a row, what you had to do to be crowned that world champion and how it's all scored and what have you.
All right, so let's break it down. So just for the scoring system, it's scored just like a rough stock event,
Yep.
Whether it's bronc riding or bull riding, you get 50 points for your animal. In our sport, the 50 points comes from how well they stay engaged with you. Are they cutting you off? Are they running you over? Are they staying with you? Are they leaving you and loping the pen, not really wanting to fight? So all that comes down to how well that animal is and how well he performs. On the other side of that is how well we perform. Are we in control of him? Are we making him do the things we want him to do? Or moving him left and right, but also keeping him close? Or are we letting him blow past us and not trying to re-engage him? So that's where you get the total point score of 100. The other side of it is, in y'all's sport, it's 8 seconds. Ours is a minimum of 40. So in order to get a score from start to finish, from the time he breaks that plane, we have to go 40 seconds with him. Now, the additional 20, so it's a total of 60 seconds. The additional 20 comes for what we allow is what we call time for your sell. Sell it on your high point of the bullfight, whether you want to jump him, flip him, knee fake, whatever. Just one more opportunity to wow those judges and say, hey, this is what I can do with this animal.
Yeah. Okay, and then so from the judging, is it the same judges who are judging rough stock events, or is it a collection of judges that you guys picked, or past bullfighters? I mean, you would probably want it to be someone who really understands the bullfighting aspect instead of the riding aspect, right?
Yeah, so we've done a little bit of both. Like when the opportunities are there, we'll use previous bullfighter. We've used Miles Harris, Metz. Like we've used a bunch of those guys, but also we like to use rodeo judges when we go to those rodeos, like Reno and Cody and things like that.
Yeah, where you guys rodeo and do a standalone event.
Yeah, just like that. So Alan Jordan, he goes to rodeos all throughout the country all year long. Like he judges a lot of our events because that is their job. They understand animals, they understand, and it's just a different, I guess a different sport, but it's to them, they're still reading and judging that animal, and they're professionals at it. So we use them a lot as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And they're unbiased. They didn't fight them.
Right.
So, I mean, you could find some guys where like, oh, well, I taught him. So, I mean, I'm not going to say that never happened. Obviously you don't want to say it does. But
it's almost impossible not to be biased towards your people. I mean, it's just.
Yeah, so it really does play well into our hand when we can use the rodeo judges.
Yeah, and you probably want to get to where that's all you do, right? And what is the long-term goal with the organization? I mean, is it to get it accepted as like almost like a rodeo sport where it's a part of the rodeos? Is it just to continue to grow it as a standalone thing? To be part of the PBR?
I mean, in my opinion, I think it's the most exciting event there is. I don't know one person that's ever been to an event and said, I didn't love it. Like to me, it's everybody's favorite sport. They just ain't heard about it yet. So in my opinion, we're bigger than the PBR. Obviously, I am biased, but we just have that atmosphere of you never know what's going to happen. Now, like in the PBR, which is great, they've blown it up to a multi-million-dollar deal. Like it's huge, right?
Yeah, it's always crazy. Like I go to a gym that's off 35, kind of, what is that? Would be east of Decatur.
Yeah. And
it's a Lifetime gym. It's like the only one in the area. And I go there, and every morning I go at about 6 a.m. PBR is always on.
Oh, yeah.
Every freaking morning. It's so crazy to see it. Like, hey, there's my dude.
Yeah.
Hey, there's my buddy. It's like, you almost want to be like, hey, that's my world. Like, it's all the snooty people who are in there on the ellipticals. And like, it's just crazy to see that something in rodeo could just be chilling in the mainstream background.
Absolutely. They've done a great job with their marketing and learning, how to promote, animal care and all those little things, and to where it's accepted. They're like, oh, PBR's on TV, that type deal. Whereas to me, obviously, that I'm happy for them because that means guys in our world are making, they get $1 million bonus. Like that doesn't happen.
Right.
So, but to us, where we're so different is to me, the PBR is monotonous. It's over and over and over, a guy getting on a bull, guy falling off, or he rides, right?
Yeah, it's always going to be 8 seconds.
Yeah, but all those people there at the crowd are always thinking, man, that bull, their conception of it is bulls are mean.
Yep.
But when that bull leaves, they're like, well, what the heck?
Right.
But when you bring us to the event, you take that equation out of it.
Right.
You are bringing one guy and one bull, and that bull is bred to fight.
Yep.
Like there's no doubt about it. That bull's going to chase him around. If for some reason he has an off day, we'll load the one that will.
Right. Yeah. So to explain the difference between a bred to buck bull and like an actual bred fighting bull, because not only do they look different, but they are really different animals.
Right. Yeah. So the cool thing about our world is, the bucking bull industry was bred over time because like they would put a flank on a bull and he would jump and kick. Well, then they would find that one was good and breed it to a cow that kind of did it, and they've created that industry. Whereas the fighting bull has been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years.
It's one of the oldest sports.
Bullfighting is the oldest sport by far. They used to fight bulls in China, bull versus bull.
Yep.
Right, back in BC. I mean, they've done this forever. So, and it's involved into the Matador in Spain, which has been around for thousands and thousands.
Giant stadiums. Yes. Yeah.
Exactly.
Much different version.
Right. So all we've done is put ourselves in the ring with them. So the fighting bull hits the ground day one, ready to fight. I mean, he is 1 hour old. The moment he figures out his legs, you could step in the pen, that baby calf will come to you. It's just, there's videos of it. I wish I had some on my phone. I could bring them up, but, that's who they are and that's what they do. It's not something we go in there and make them mad to make them fight. The only thing we do is we add a flank to them to give us some advantage. A fighting bull is so fast and so agile that that flank gives them just a little kick every now and then.
Yep.
That doesn't mean they will kick, but every now and then they will, which gives us an advantage to get away.
Right. And that kind of brings me back to the whole man killer thing. I mean, so there's levels to the bull, just like the people, and there's a certain level of bull that you probably can't fight because they're just too rank. Is that the whole idea of it? Or
no, I mean, I guess the best way to explain it is there are bulls that are very hard to get around, and over time, it's just like a boxer that's boxed for 30 years. You know, he's going to be pretty hard to beat up.
Yeah.
You know, he's seen it all. He knows what's coming, and you know, it's the same thing in our industry. Whereas in Spain and Mexico, those matadors, they'll fight them once and then kill them.
Yep.
But the reason why they kill them is because that matador just showed them all the tricks.
Yep.
So if they were to fight that bull again, he would know him and he would get the matador.
Yep.
That's why they kill him. Over here in America, obviously, we love our animals. What we do is we tip their horns to a $50. So that way when they hit you, it's a blunt force versus a sharp object.
Yep.
But we continue to fight them. So that's where the term man killer comes from. It's like, hey, he's been around a long time and he knows all the tricks.
Yeah. So he's gonna win this.
In order to get around him, you're gonna have your best day, and he's gonna have to let you win.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, there's bulls that you can still get by, and we dub them the term man killer, but they still really don't compare to them big old school brindles back in the day.
Right. Yeah.
Those were true man killers because they fought them over and over and over, and they're not fighting bulls; they travel different. So
right.
Those were crossbloods. What we fight now are true blood Mexican fighting bulls.
Yeah, yeah. And so when a bull gets to that level, do you guys throw him out of the pen?
No, not necessarily, because it's cool in a sense for those bulls to have names too. You know, there's a bull that comes to mind. His name's Hugh Hefner, and he is probably one of the bigger Mexicans that will fight on tour. I mean, roughly 1,400, I would guess, and he may be 15. I'm not great with judging weight. I just know they're fast, but he's got 2 foot of horn on each side, and you know, he's been fought quite a bit, but what gets him is he's just so fast. You know, it's not that he's dirty; he's just fast on the corner, and if you stump your toe, you're going to get hooked. So, a lot of guys, you know, they'll dub him like man killer, and I wouldn't necessarily. He is a man killer, but he'll damn sure kill you if you let him.
Right.
So,
right.
I fought him once, and that was 2018, but since then, you know, he's continued to build his resume, you know, and a lot of guys don't want to face him.
Really? Yeah, I mean, he's hurt some people, obviously.
Oh yeah. He's broke a few arms, put a few guys out, ripped some head opens. He's the real deal. But on the other side of it is when you handle him, you win.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you can score on him, you're gonna win the event.
Yeah, I would say you would have to, if you didn't win it, you'd be second.
Right.
So it just depends on how well you controlled him versus getting controlled.
Guys, let me remind you how much we love Pendleton whiskey and how much you'll love it too. Here's the thing with Pendleton. It's not on every single shelf in the entire country. Sometimes you go to those small towns where the small rodeos are and you can't find Pendleton. That's where drizzly.com comes into play. Satisfy your inner cowboy by purchasing your bottle of Pendleton whiskey online. Buy it online at drizzly.com, put it in the trailer. Pendleton blended Canadian whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume, Pendleton Distilleries, Lawrenceburg, Indiana, and please drink responsibly. Yeah, and so when you say control him, I mean, what is the method to keep that bull engaged with you? Is just being in front of his face, being in his eyes? I mean, what's the goal, right? When you go in there and you set up a run, clearly you're probably your only way to keep him focused on you is to stay in front of his head.
Yeah. So every bull is different, just like every human's different. You know, me and you could get in a fight, and it could be one thing that triggers you versus somebody else. You know, that type of deal. So you got to handle it like that. Is you can't really have a game plan. You just got to read and react.
Right.
But that being said, you know that my plan when I go in there is just be as aggressive as possible. You know, I'm not really going in there with a big, I got to do this, this, and this. It's just taking what he's given me and using it against him. You know, if he's wanting to shy away from me, but he wants to break on that left horn, I'm going to keep driving that left horn until he starts to cut me off, thinking he's got me. Switch it up. You know, it's just really, you have to read on the fly. It really is an art, I guess, if you broke it down, because it's no one bullfight's exactly the same. You know, you might have bulls with the same tendency, but everything's different as far as what's going to get them to strike.
Right. Yeah, and maybe sometimes you don't know exactly when it's going to come. That's probably one of the other tricky parts, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's every pass you could catch it. Like I've had multiple bulls blow up underneath me, catch my jersey or catch me and trip me, and you just get by. It's like, shoot, there's just that one instance that if you were to stump your toe, but get up just in time, that horn will just miss you, But if he just misses you, you're alive for that next move. Whereas if he catches you, you got to kind of start back over and hope he doesn't get you too bad.
Yeah, that makes sense. So when you're looking at, like, say we'll use you because you're here, but like your strengths that you are able to bring into the arena to win, 3 world titles. Obviously to win 3 times of anything, it doesn't even matter if you're only competing against 2 other guys. It's a simple thing to do. So, what is it that you think separates you from your average bullfighter? I'm sure there's not any average bullfighters, but, there's a level maybe above if you're going to win 3 times.
I don't know. I guess the easy answer for most people that would see us as a whole is like, I'm very, very blessed to be as quick as I am. Not a lot of white boys in general are quick or fast, but
right.
And I'm not fast, 100-yard fast, but 30, 40 yards, I'm pretty quick.
Right.
But that's a big strength of mine. But I would say what the difference is between myself and the majority of athletes in general is work ethic.
Right.
I don't shy away from the commitment of what it takes to get up early and put in those hours to make my weaknesses strengths and make my strengths even more strength. So that I'd say in any world champ, in any event or Super Bowl champ or whatever, Tom Brady being 87 years old and 7 Super Bowl rings, but he still goes out there like he's never won one.
Yep.
And I think in any sport, especially mine, you have to be pretty much willing to accept being uncomfortable every single day.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so when was it that you decided that you wanted to really, really be involved? Obviously, if you're playing football and doing all that, you're in the gym, from basically freshman year of high school and on, and not very many people ever quit that, and you get something from that. I know I always did, and I just enjoy being in the gym. But, you are a personal trainer too, right? So you've got the bullfighting job, and then you're also training people.
Yeah. So I guess I didn't what's your question though?
Well, when was it that you decided you were going to do training?
Oh, yeah. So honestly, I've just been intrigued by it. I love trying to figure out what am I capable of. Like there's obviously different levels of that, and the mindset of it, but comes from it. But I truly want to know what am I capable of myself. So that's where I fell in love with the gym, and anytime I was in there, I was trying to learn something. I've had my own personal trainer since 2000 and I think I hired my first trainer and at 15 is when I tore my ankle, so that would have been when I hired my first trainer. And
been the same guy ever since? Or?
No, as you grow through other ones, and some gyms have closed on me and things like that. But I hired my first personal trainer in 15, and I was just a sponge.
Yeah.
I was lucky to work with 2 different guys in College Station when I was living there, and bounce back and forth. One guy was an agility guy, the other guy was a strength guy, and just I just loved it. I loved the atmosphere of it. Just going in there, getting a good sweat, and really feel like I did something with myself for my mental aspect of it, but also physical. And then as the years gone on, I just kept continuing to learn, and finally I hit a point where I didn't have a trainer that I liked. I'd finally outgrown some of the guys, and I could just kind of pick up things. I was like, man, that don't really line up with what I'm doing, and I didn't agree with some things. And I was like, why am I paying somebody this kind of money and not doing it myself? So I decided then, I guess that would have been 2018. And I was like, you know what? I'd finally found a gym that I really, really liked, and it was nowhere near me. I just liked what they were doing, and the athletes they were pumping out were, the biggest names of the world. That's where Dwayne Wade went. That's where LeBron James goes. That's where Von Miller goes.
Yeah, what gym?
It's a gym called Miami. It's DBC in Miami. DBC Fit, dumbbells, barbells, and cables. It's a functional training.
It's in Florida?
Yep.
Miami?
Yeah, in Miami. And I just really, really liked what they were doing. And I was like, I'm going to go down there and see what that's all about.
Yeah.
And it was super cool. I learned a ton. And then when I got back, I was just like, all right, I've learned this. I've done this. Why not get paid for it? So
right.
Why not monetize my hours in the gym of I mean, heck, I've been in there 4 hours a day for the last 6 years, 7 years, however long it's been. And
Right.
I was like, man, let's just take on some clients. And it's been pretty good for me. I haven't done the marketing that I need to do, but I also didn't want to take away who I am in the arena either. So it's trying to balance the aspect of the time I need for myself to be the best athlete I can be, but also trying to learn how to give back as well. So it's been good. I've got a staple of about 10 guys that I'm kind of rotating in and out when I'm not on the road.
They come to you, or do you go to them?
So I do everything virtually right now. 2020 taught me a lesson that I wasn't even training. Honestly, I started training people in 2020. I had a couple in 19, but I was bouncing back and forth with really rodeoing hard and things like that. And 2020 came, sitting at home. What can I do? I was like, well, heck, I know how to train. People are at home. Let's just train them at home. So I started just training them virtually. I've got some guys out in California and things like that. So I'll FaceTime or Zoom call them at a certain time, to a certain date, and he's in the gym, I'm at home, and I'm instructing him how to do things. And if there's a question, I can fix it on the spot.
Yeah, totally. So kind of going back to, so you went and you trained at that gym in Miami. What was their reaction to like, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm a bullfighter? Were they like, cool, or you're what?
Yeah, no, that's usually the reaction I get is, you're a what? I tell them, they're like, oh, so you kill bulls? No, I don't kill bulls. So you got to go through the whole thing of blah, 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 I'm a rodeo clown, this and that, we don't kill them. I'm actually an athlete. So then the best way to do it is you just show them a video.
Yep.
Hey, this is what I do.
And they're like, oh, shit.
Yeah, oh, shit. Yeah, so yeah, no, that running back over there training is exactly what I need to train, except for the only difference is he has a whistle, I don't.
Yep.
So it's I guess it's a knee-jerk reaction, but also immediate respect.
Yeah.
So it's cool. And then, of course, they're like, oh, you ever been hurt? Turn around, show them my head. They're like, oh, shit.
Yep.
So
Yep,
the
absolutely.
Scar on my head is usually a telltale sign of everybody like, oh, yeah, you definitely do this.
Yeah, so you've got one specific scar you show people?
Yeah. I'll scream.
Hey, what's up? Look at that, Ty.
Yeah.
All right, so what happened there?
So that actually happened in the finals out in Vegas, 2017. Yeah, 2017. The first event of the whole finals, we have a deal. It's called the Ruffy Cup. It's the first standalone event of the finals. So we have the Ruffy Cup, and then we have the rest of the finals. Mm-hmm. And I went to jump fighting bull, and he'd been fought before, been jumped before, met me in the air, clipped my foot, and knocked my feet out from under me. And as he got on top of me, his back foot stepped on my head, and his dew claw ripped it open. Ooh. So, yeah, it's pretty gnarly. Ended up having to get 16 staples put in it that night, and that was how I started off the 17 finals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you did the rest of the finals with the staples in your head?
Yeah, that happened on a Thursday, and I was out again on Monday.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, but like I told everybody,
still won the it's
a cool story, perseverance, blah blah blah. But I told everybody, I was like, well, I mean, I would much rather have staples in my head than staples in my ankle. You got to use your feet to work here. I mean, if I could put a hat on.
They didn't try to medically remove you?
Oh yeah, they tried, but it was the finals. So
yeah. And so when you had that accident, I mean, so if that happens, obviously you don't score good if you get ran over, right?
Yeah. So the first event of the finals, which was the Ruffy Cup, I think the winner could win like 10 grand or something like that. And I was fortunate enough, I had a pretty good lead coming into 17. I think I was ahead like, 15, 20,000. So it cut my lead down, but it didn't cost me anything. So I didn't win that event, but then went into the second part of our finals, which is more of a tournament style. Mm-hmm. And then won my next round, went into the short round on Saturday and won the event as well. So sure. I won the average and the world title.
Right.
So, yeah, that happened in 17, and then 18 at the finals, I ended up getting my face smashed. I broke my orbital bone, destroyed my nose, my sinus wall, and same thing. They told me I had to quit, and I told them, get me a mask. I'm not done.
Right.
So, fought bulls the rest of that year with a big old mask on like Kobe used to wear.
Yeah. Well, you do what you got to do. So
yeah, especially that time of year. I mean, nobody's going to turn out. Like, that's where the gold buckle's handed out. I mean, that's where the big money is, and that's where the gold buckle is. So at any point, I mean, obviously fighting bulls in general, you're going to get used to fighting sore. It's just putting up a little bit more with a little more at stake.
Right. No, absolutely. So when you are at the, the finals, how many nights do you fight bulls?
So in 17 and 18, we have it's 10 rounds, but we don't fight bulls necessarily all 10 days.
Sure.
You're broken up over to certain days. Like I fought bulls. I ended up fighting in 17. I fought 6 bulls, 2 on the first day, 2 on the last day. So I'd say 4 of the 10. And then in 18, I fought 7 bulls in 10 days. So I had to fight bulls 5 or 6 days of the 10.
Okay.
Which is a lot.
That sounds like a lot. Yeah, by those last few days, you're probably
very mentally and physically taxing.
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like how serious you take the physical aspect of it. I mean, I'm sure you take the diet serious and the whole thing. I mean, the whole sport of rodeo and the subsidiaries like this have really elevated in that way.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. And anybody in today's age, we've got everything at the touch of our finger.
Yep.
If you can't soak up all that knowledge and realize what people are doing these days to prepare themselves, you're 10 steps behind, So I always tell my uncles, they rodeoed in the glory days when it was nothing but a party and we went and rode horses and had fun every night, which I still have a ton of fun. I'm not going to say I don't. I love to sit back, drink beer with my buddies, but there's a time and place for it now. So if I was doing that every night, heck, there's not a chance in the world I'd have one gold buckle, let alone 3.
Right. No, that makes sense. All right. So, kid like Ty comes up to you. Hey, Weston, I want to fight bulls. What's the first thing you tell him that he needs to work on?
Kid like Ty walks up to me and says he wants to.
Not a kid like Ty walks up. We'll make this even easier. All right, Ty walks right up to you. The exact outfit he's wearing right now, but let's just say for the sake of the argument, his hair's going the other direction.
Oh, yeah, okay. That makes
sense. So I want to do bullfighting. What do I need to do?
Yeah.
Well, first off, I would tell you, how serious are you?
Wait,
Because
you want to size him up a little better? Ty, step back.
Yeah, let's see what
you're working with. Let's look at the hip to shoulder ratio.
I mean, he's slim enough. He dang sure do it.
A couple high knees. Yeah.
Honestly, I wouldn't tell anybody away because that's just one more fan of the sport.
Yeah.
To me and where we're at in our sport, we need fans.
Yep.
I mean, it's a great thing for us. So what I would tell him is if you're serious, let me know. Send me a message on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and I will link you to the next school I know of.
Yeah.
Because I would say, have you ever fought bulls before? I'm going to assume not.
I have not.
Okay. So I would say, hey, you need to come to our school, and we'll give you a whole bunch of groundwork and give you fundamentals so that way when you're ready to fight a bull, you have home base. You know what you're starting with, and you've got at least an idea rather than saying, all right, let's go to this arena over here and step in the pen and just get you run over or not.
Yeah, I mean, so what are the fundamentals, right? So I'm assuming it's going to be very similar to a sport like football or something like that when it comes to, the fundamentals. You probably utilize a lot of the same drills,
you do.
Similar.
You do in an aspect of I do a bunch of agilities and things like that at my schools, but bulls, a lot of people don't know, they turn like a wheelbarrow. Horses will turn on their back end where a bull is more front end. So anybody that's ever pushed a wheelbarrow turns and, kind of gets in that little circular motion. Well, that moves a lot like a bull does. So what we do is we call the pocket is inside that wheelbarrow. If I can continue to step towards his shoulder that he's coming at with me, so if he's coming at
his inside shoulder, always
yep,
step
just like that. I'm always breaking inside that horn and stepping towards that shoulder. That's what we call the safe spot.
Yeah.
So like at schools like that, we really push a dummy a lot. It's just running back and forth and getting those kids comfortable with what it feels like to break that shoulder and step into that round.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so we do that, and then obviously we let them know how serious the physical shape takes place. So we put them through a bunch of workouts and kind of give them an eye-opener workout right off the bat and hey, if you want to do this, this is what you got to do pretty much day in and day out.
Yeah, what type of cardio, do you do, and what do you tell people to do? Because I can just imagine 60 seconds.
In deep sand.
Yeah, in deep sand with all the clothes on, and it seems like everybody's wearing football cleats or something like that.
Yeah, so we wear cleats as well.
Yeah.
Some wear molded cleats, some wear metal spikes, some wear turfs. It just depends on the dirt. I carry 3 pair of cleats with me at all times just because you never know where you're going.
Right.
But like myself, everybody has different concepts of it. Like Tuckness is a huge CrossFit guy. He loves the cross training and just the mental capacity that it takes to push your body to extreme limits every single day. Where I look at it more as a sports performance type deal. Like we have a lot of similarities, but we also get there different ways. Whereas I'm more of an agility based, speed ladder, cones, all out push and sprints. In my sport, we're quick sprinters. We sprint, stop, whereas it's not a marathon, So the worst thing somebody can go do is I went and jogged 8 miles. Well, when
What
you
that do
got
for you?
yeah, when are you going to jog 8 miles in an arena unless you're picking up flanks and you're not fighting bulls? So,
Right.
So to me, I'm just very heavily on the
Raise and lower heart rate thing.
yeah, more of your high intensity training. But me being a little guy, I like to pick up weights as well. So that way, if I do take a shot, I've got a little more meat on me versus just bones.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's probably some utility in being a little bit smaller guy in bullfighting, right?
Yeah, your center of balance is a little better. I mean, obviously, littler guys can seem to be a little quicker as well, a little more quick-footed and not so unstable. But, I mean, there's a good friend of mine, Date Smil. Hell, he's 6'4", and he's got quick feet. You know,
Really?
Yeah, and it comes with an advantage because my 2 steps are his 1. So
Right.
when he goes into that round, it takes 1 step for him where it takes me 2.
Right. When you went into your first finals, though, like, did you have a big lead where you knew, like, hey, I'm probably going to win this? Because they go high money earner, right?
Yeah, so most money won at the end of the world. 16, I went into 16 actually behind. Yeah, I was actually behind. So, but I mean, in any industry and guys at our level, whether you're an MMA guy or not, if you think you're losing, you're in the wrong sport.
Yep.
You know, so it just really came down to me utilizing the bulls I had in front of me, and I ended up drawing great and fought bulls great and came out with the win. And 17, I had a lot bigger lead. I fought bulls great all year.
Right.
Had a little mishap right at the very beginning of the finals, but I didn't let it derail me. 18 was a lot closer than I wanted it to be. Come down to the very last bull and ended
Right.
up coming out on top. But you know, each year's just got a different story to it. And if you were to look at it and say this is the game plan, you would be wrong, because you just got to roll with the punches all year long, because it could be the very last bull or you could be 10 bulls ahead, you know.
Right.
Like Aaron Mercer in 19 had such a lead, none of us could catch him.
Right.
So it's just kid fought bulls great all year long and never stumped his toe and flat out there and just wouldn't whipped us all.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
Take it when it happens, because very rarely does it.
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, you probably have to plan for at least 1 or 2 mishaps.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Sooner or later
Just the
they'll
nature
catch you.
of it. Yeah. I mean, what kind of crowd do you have at the finals? I mean, is it an overwhelming crowd? Like, can't hear yourself think?
Well, overwhelming in that concept, yes. As far as attendance wise, well, we do it in the tent. We don't have a venue yet as far as a big, you know, Thomas and Mack or anything like that. But that's what's so cool about ours is so personal. You know,
So you got guys. It's almost like local MMA where everybody's kind of
Yeah.
crowded around the fence.
That's it.
I
Yeah.
love
So
those
we're
environments.
our tent I think holds right at 2,000.
Yeah.
Maybe 1,500, but it feels like 8,000 because you're inside a
Yeah.
closed area and they're literally right on top of you.
Have you been to a casino UFC fight where there's no bleachers and it's just everybody's on the floor?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, not UFC, but MMA fight. That's crazy. It's
Yeah.
a different experience.
Yeah,
I gotta imagine that's what it's like. For
yeah.
UFO
So
things.
yeah, like we've got just your smaller bleachers and things like that, but that surround it. You know, we've got 3 sides of bleachers, and then wherever people can stand is where they stand. They just file them in there. So
Yeah, and what size is the arena?
I think the arena we do is 80 by 90. Yeah, so it's a pretty tight arena.
Yeah.
We're fighting the biggest bulls and meanest bulls in the world for
Right.
sure. So there's no chance to get away. You got to damn sure bring your A game up there.
Right. No, absolutely. And so, I mean, just like PBR bulls and obviously bucking stock with the horses and everything. I mean, are people really getting involved in breeding fighting bulls? I mean, is that becoming a heavy thing now too? I mean,
Yeah, not necessarily as bad, but there's dang sure a lot more contractors that are coming into the game just because they're a fan of it.
Right.
Like, oh man, I want to do that. So what it's done is kind of created the market to be a little more pricey. Like a lot of those bulls come from California.
do they?
Yeah, they'll bring them from across Mexico, quarantine them, all that, and then those guys will sell them from there. But also a lot of those guys have been raising their own bulls out in California for years.
Right.
To the point where they have their own herds, and it's just drove the price up. Before you could buy a fighting bull for $100, now you're having to pay $2,500 a pop. So
Really?
yeah,
That's pretty interesting.
yeah. The bullfights have definitely grown that industry.
Yeah, and I mean, well, you want that, right? Everything elevates, and then all of a sudden you're making more money. And I mean, obviously, it's going to be way behind like PBR or NFR type money, but it's got to be getting
Yeah, I mean,
every year. It's got to be more, right?
Yeah, that's to me like looking at it. I think we should be as big as PBR, but shoot, they've been around for what 20, 30 years now.
Yeah.
We're in year. I guess it would be 6, but or 5.5.
Who's handling like contract negotiations and expansion and growth? I mean, is there a specific, like, is there a president of the BFO who's doing all that?
Yes, sir. We've got a BFO management team. Nate Justice is our general manager. He's been in the NFR 3 times now, but collectively as a group, it's quite a few people that are all got their hands in it. So it's not just one guy running everything, but Nate is the forefront of it.
Sure. I mean, would you want it to be so big that, well, I guess it creates an issue. Like, the bigger the BFO gets, the less people probably want to go fight bulls for rodeo, right? Because they're going to want to.
Yes and no, because to me, you know, so I guess the coolest thing about it is it gives guys like me an avenue. You know, like when I started, you had to freestyle to get protection jobs, you know, just to make your name to where you had a chance. Whereas now,
so they're around.
I was able to basically, because I don't have a ton of protection rodeos. Like, I'd love to pick up more, but what I was able to do is the rodeos that I have, I keep that are great rodeos. But if it wasn't something that didn't pay like I wanted it to, I could take that weekend off and then go to a bullfight.
Sure.
So now there's a whole generation of kids that don't even want to do protection. They just go to bullfight. So I think it's cool in the fact of we've just created another avenue for kids who, you know, have no interest in going and fighting protection and saving cowboys. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm a freestyle bullfighter.
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool. You know, you got your guys who just want to do protection. You got your guys who do both like myself. And then you got your guys who could care less about protection and just want to be a freestyler.
Right. I mean, the freestyle thing probably feels cooler maybe than having to go to PRCA rodeos and do protection or whatever. I mean, at least that's how a young guy would probably justify it.
Yeah,
right?
and I mean, I'm guilty of it too. You know, I had a pretty good deal of rodeos, and you know, it's still a goal of mine is to fight the NFR one day. You know, I want to be the guy who's the first.
I'm surprised you haven't. Yeah, I mean,
it just comes with. I mean, you got to get those guys that are the top 20 bull riders in the world to think you're ready for it. And in my mind, I am, but you know, I haven't proven it to them yet. So there's a lot of work to be done. But you know, like that's a goal of mine is to make the NFR someday and be the first guy to be a BFO world champion and work the NFR. But
you think they're pretty far apart, and that's why. I mean, you think like the top 15 bull riders or the PBR guys, they aren't really looking at the BFO much, or do they?
I think they do. I mean, they follow it, but in the same thing, it doesn't correlate with what they need.
Yeah, it's a lot different than ripping them out and keeping them alive.
Yeah, like they're fans of it, but to them, it's not like, well, he just saved my ass over here. And like when you do, they're happy for it. But you know, I think what I did is good and bad. You know, I went so heavy freestyle bullfighting that I made people forget that I even did protection.
Right.
Which is great because it speaks for the leaps and bounds of my talent in the freestyle world, but it also hurt me in the protection side.
Yeah.
Which I'm not mad about it, and I wouldn't change anything. Maybe as far as I wouldn't have went so gung-ho, I'm just a freestyle guy, because I made a pretty good statement when I got kind of fed up with some rodeo stuff, and it was like, what the hell with it? I can go make a ton of money freestyling. I'll just do that. But the reality is, you know, we learn as we get older, but to me, it's still just cool that there is that avenue for a kid coming up that doesn't want to protect.
Yeah, I mean, you should have multiple opportunities to do something similar.
Yeah, because in what sport can you do that? You know, if you play football, you play football. Yep. The only way you're going to make money doing it is go to the NFL.
Yeah, and technically it's the same thing, but it's a totally different gig.
Exactly, yeah, because in protection, the only thing that different is you're protecting that guy, but once that guy's gone, it turns into a bullfight.
Right.
It's all the same moves. The only thing with freestyle is you're just taking the bull rider out of it, and you're taking the concept if the bull's mean or not out. You know he's mean.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting when you break it down like that. I mean, there's certain guys who've really made big names in the protection. I mean, Cody Webster comes to mind, or Dusty too. I mean, geez, he's how many times?
12?
Yeah, 12 or 14 or something like that.
87.
PRCA Bullfighter of the Year. At one point, he's going to be in there with a walker if he keeps on it.
I don't know. Tuck's built different.
Yeah, he's a cool dude.
Yeah, he is.
But, yeah, I don't know. I find it really cool the path that you took, and like you're a physically fit guy, and obviously a world champion at that. I hope that the NFR thing comes your way, though. I definitely do.
Yeah, it's definitely a goal of mine, and it'll happen when it happens. You know, I can't rush things. God's got his own timing for everything, but that don't mean I won't go out there and work for it.
Hell yeah. I think that's what we should all do with everything that's important to us.
Amen to that.
Well, I'm glad you came, Weston. That was pretty enlightening. I definitely am a novice in my knowledge of the BFO, so I feel like I'm a lot smarter and can speak on it more intelligently after today.
That was good. I appreciate you having me. You know, like I said, at the end of the day, if I bring one fan to the BFO, that's one more fan than we had. So thanks for the opportunity, and thank you for the platform.
Hey, absolutely. Out of our 3 listeners, hopefully you get one of them. This has been The Gauge, hosted by me, Chance Conrado, produced and edited by our guy Ty Yeager. Shout out to the executive producers Dustin Pointer and Cody Denton. Marketing and content produced by Riley Chone. Make sure to rate and review this podcast, as well as follow The Gauge on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And make sure to subscribe to The Gauge wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you guys next time.